Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here in the house, running late with patients. Busy, busy, busy. Just finished my lunch a second ago, and I'm jumping on this call and then, or jumping on this video and then jumping with a patient here in just a minute. So, a very busy day. Really happy to be connected with y'all. Hope you're all having a phenomenal new year. Let's dig in. Design Lover writes in, Happy New Year. I'd like to work with you. My father is in New York State. Where would you get him tested? As how much it typically costs for initial cost testing? Great question. There's a couple of labs that we use that you can, do stool testing within the state. Some of the blood testing that we'll do, if we need to do it for thyroid or for whatever else, you can do it in Connecticut, or with some mail-in ones that we can do. And then there's some other tests that we do that you can sign a waiver and just say you didn't do it in the state. And it's up to you if you do it or not. But as long as you sign the waiver, you're good. And again, I recommend you only follow the rules. But New York State's one of those only ones. It's just weird. It's basically crony capitalism from the insurance companies wanting a monopoly, essentially. Jack JMC writes in, is carbonate, and then cost-wise, $299 to $399 for new patient. And then typically labs, anywhere between 1 to 4 labs. And it just depends, labs could go anywhere between 300 to 1,500. And then supplements will range anywhere between typically $100 to $300 a month. It really just depends on how sick you are, what your goals are, how fast you want to get better. But typically we're able to address and customize things so it makes sense for you. Jack JMC writes in, is carbonated water okay to drink? Yeah, I love it. I mean, I got my Topo Chico sitting right here. Don't drink with meals. But yeah, the pH is relatively neutral. Maybe even a little bit alkaline a lot of times. And it's good. I like it a lot. A lot of sulfate in there, sulfur in there, good things. Is it normal for spicy food to cause loose stools? Potentially, definitely can. It can be a little bit of an irritant with some people. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, so you definitely have to kind of dial that in accordingly. Ty Nguyen writes in, Happy New Year, Jay. You're one of my online go-to natural doctors. You don't leave anything out and explain things so well, and making sure exception cases are mentioned. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Ty. Jack JMC writes in, have you heard of the Master Tonic? And if you have, would that be good enough to kill infections and parasites? I have not heard of that. If you could put a little more information about that, that'd be awesome. Daniel writes in, my client is being tube fed due to a TBI car crash. Is it basically trapped in his own body, basically trapped in his own body and able to speak or move? Wow, that sounds terrible. I mean, I really put my thoughts and prayers out to his family. That's difficult. His feeding formula is filled with garbage like high fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, soy, and milk. Yeah, that's really bad. I mean, I would try to get some ketone ringers in there. I mean, you can get ketone IV stuff. I'd work on getting some really good clean amino acid IV out there, maybe a Myers cocktail. I mean, if he has a feeding tube, I would even go and I'd get some elemental diet formula. Like there's 2 major companies. Integrative Therapeutics has one that's a physician's grade elemental. You can get the one with tapioca. So there's no corn in there or high fructose in there. That's a good one to go with off the bat. Absorb Plus also has one. I would go with that and use that in the feeding tube. And I would try to push for Meyer cocktail IV, glutathione, and even some ketone ringers and get the ketones in him IV wise to help. That's a terrible situation, but I hope that helps. And then you write in canola oil. Yeah, cheap synthetic vitamins. Exactly. What would you recommend? If you do a really good elemental diet, like the 2 I mentioned, you'll be covered with a lot of the nutrients. And I would do some ketone ringers. And I would try to also do a Myers cocktail as well. Good luck with that. Keep us posted. Jack JMC writes in, is eating fermented food daily okay? Yeah, I have no problem with it as long as you don't have any bloating or gas or any yeast overgrowth or it's causing any negative symptoms. If you have SIBO, sometimes fermented foods can cause some problems. So as long as you can tolerate it, okay, that's great. I have no problem with it. Let me jump over to Facebook real quick. Cause of abnormally high calcium, magnesium on hair test. There's something in the kind of the hair test field called a calcium shell. So inflammation can cause high levels of calcium. That's definitely possible. I'm not a huge fan personally of hair mineral analysis because how do the minerals get in the hair? They have to go through digestion, HCl, enzymes, absorption. So there's digestive issues, enzyme issues, HCl issues, infections. The hair, all that stuff gets screwed up. It's just so downstream. It's like trying to look like 100 miles downstream and you're sitting there being like, hey, like, why is it so dry? Like, where's the water? And yet the dam is 100 miles upstream and that's where the problem's coming from. So we're trying to go look upstream at the dam and focus on the root issue there. SEI writes in, I'm wanting to do a 7-day alkaline juice fast. Anything I should be aware of? to follow with the protocol. See if it lets me actually look and see if I can read the whole thing. Yeah, this is why I don't like the Facebook. It's just not user friendly for me. Can't let me see more. Can't read the rest of your comment there. Sorry, but in general, not a big fan of alkaline juice fast. If you're going to do it, do some bone broth in there as well, so you get some little bit of fat and a little bit of amino acids. I think that's wonderful. And start with that. And if you want to do some green juice, that's cool as well. All right, wish you the best with that. Oh, that still doesn't work. Little bugger. All right. Keep on rolling here for y'all. Barbara Scott writes in, hey, Dr. J, question, can one heal from infestation without aid of a clearing agent? Is a child automatically born with infestation from mom? Can this cause allergies? Well, I mean, typically, child's going to be born through the vaginal canal, or if you're not, if you have to do a C-section, you'll do some vaginal seeding, where you take a moist towelette, put it in the vaginal area a couple hours before C-section to really sop up that good bacteria, and that bacteria activates the child's immune system. And then if you breastfeed as well, you're going to be in phenomenal shape. So that's going to be huge for supporting the immune system and activating the immune system. Plus antibodies, IgG, IgA, all that's coming through the breast milk as well. And then regarding, ideally, you wouldn't be born with infections unless you have a whole bunch of antibiotics given at birth that really mess up your flora. Okay. How could be busy? Okay. Oh, yeah, George, I'm here. And again, if I'm not here, y'all, just feel free, write your message in there and I'll get to it. And then you can go look at it later if you don't see me there. What would cause a crater on the surface of my fingernail? Well, it depends. Trauma. If you whacked it, that could have happened. But definitely some maldigested protein or fat. Just you're not quite getting enough of the building blocks in there. And the next thing would be, zinc as well. Those are really important minerals and amino acids that are really important there. Okay. Yep, I think I answered your question, Barb. And then, yeah, typically kids aren't going to be born with infections. That placenta, is going to be pretty helpful. But I mean, it's always possible if you have an unhealthy mom. So, and then especially coming out the vaginal canal, you never know. But in general, good breastfeeding and good vaginal bacterial activation will help. Is near-infrared sauna good for disc herniation? Well, I mean, there's going to be some really good benefits from the sauna from a detoxification standpoint. I mean, it's not going to fix the underlying mechanism of why you have a disc issue, right? Typically, disc issues are caused by abnormal force absorption. It could be bad posture. The muscles in that area above and below may not be working well. And of course, you need to work on getting the inflammation under control, anti-inflammatory, systemic enzymes taken away from food. You definitely want to get a really good traction device that creates negative pressure to suck that disc back in. Courtney writes in, what do you think is the cause of arthritis? Could it be gut infection? Is there anything that could help repair? Any recommendations on what to do? Well, with arthritis, I mean, you have autoimmune types that are like rheumatoid arthritis. That could be from food and gluten and leaky gut, and that typically happens bilaterally. There's wear and tear arthritis that happen typically because, poor nutrition or not absorbing that nutrition, and or just abnormal force going to the body and causing excessive breakdown in regards to the repair side, right? So our body's not like, imagine a wooden pole where you just kind of sand it down and that's it. Well, it's like our bones aren't just inert wood. They're growing, they're healing, they're totally alive. They're half protein and they're half minerals. The mineral side's about 13 of them, and they provide significant building blocks for your body to heal and to recover. And so you want to make sure that you have those nutrients in there, and you want to make sure like force absorption is good. Like if you have wear and tear stuff, you want to make sure the muscles are turned on and you're able to absorb force through your muscles, not through the avascular tissue like cartilage and bone and all that stuff. So you want to see a good like applied kinesiology or a really good functional movement person that can do muscle testing to assess that. And then, of course, there's things like gout, which is more bad food, inflammatory fruit, high fructose corn syrup, those kind of thing. Little voice writes in, there's the difference between marine and bovine collagen. What's the best for skin health? I typically go with the bovine collagen. Akbar writes in, he's talking about GI Clear 1, 4, and 5. Akbar, you keep on writing the same question every single time, man. We already talked about that. Follow the die-off reaction handout. If any patients are watching and they're having any side effects due to any clearing herbs, the first thing you need to do is follow my die-off reaction handout. Titrate the herbs up one at a time. If you cause too much killing for what your body, your lymphatic, your detoxification, and your immune system can handle, you will have negative symptoms. So taper that up slowly, one at a time. Add in ginger tea, add in some binders if we need, whether it's activated charcoal or bentonite clay. I'm getting that same question all the time. So please make sure you follow that handout. I don't want to be a broken record here, but that handout's there for you. Okay. And then let me see here. Another question is it possible to be keto adapted if there's SIBO infections are still present in the gut? It's hard to say. I mean, you can definitely still be keto adapted if you keep your macros in your diet dialed in, whether it's 65 to 80% fat, 15 to 25% protein, around sub 10% carbs will kind of put you in that keto level. If you have a lot of stress and a lot of inflammation, that may mobilize more glucose and that may knock you out. So you have to kind of feel what feels best. You may want to up the carbs a little bit if you're in a difficult place with a lot of that inflammation, but try to choose paleo approved anti-inflammatory things. Lisa writes in, accuracy of the U-biome, not a huge fan of it. Doesn't give enough actionable information for me. And Design Lover writes in, thank you for the cost averages. Do you know of any patients able to go through insurance, Medicaid? I mean, in my office, all of our receipts have CPT and ICD-10 codes. So definitely if you have Flex or a health savings account, you can definitely do that. And then everything else is going to be up to your insurance, whether you hit your deductible, whether you get coverage for out-of-network doctors. There's too many variables. But the receipts that my office provides are coded, so you could always submit them. And they should definitely go off the deductible. So that's good too. Kitty writes in, Dr. J, the only thing that helps my colon motility is Vitex. Why do you think that is? The other motility supports don't help as much as the Vitex tincture. That's interesting. That tells me there's probably a hormone-related issue because Vitex or Chase Tree really helps with LH and progesterone. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of your hormonal imbalances, Kitty, are affecting your motility. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some estrogen dominance and or a lower progesterone, and the Vitex is helping that. And let's just do a little PubMed search or a little search here. Progesterone and bowel motility. Let's see if there's any data on this. Let's see. Gastromotility in pregnancy. Most studies demonstrate that progesterone, has increased effects of motility. Yeah, there is some data showing that progesterone can help that. And again, for me, I'm always working on hormones with my patients. So a lot of things, a lot of mechanisms that are out there, you don't have to know it all. You just have to have a really thorough list when you're working through a patient that I'm going to hit all these things anyway, even if by accident, because we're trying to look at all the systems and try to bring them back to homeostasis gently. And a lot of times so many symptoms happen when you support estrogen dominance, when you can support that, or when you support the adrenals, so many things improve. Which probiotics do you recommend? As I have a large abscess after recent dental work. Not at all what I want. Been doing all the natural stuff and cutting it. Well, number one, I would get a really good toothpaste. I like the one Revitin. Revitin's a really good one. I get some good mouthwash. There's a couple of good mouthwashes. You could do the Young Living mouthwash. You could do Xylowhite mouthwash by now. Those are good. You could even do some hydrogen peroxide, 3%, 50-50 mixed with water. That's great. Get to the root cause of why that was happening. So if there's gluten or a bad diet, you want to fix it. Kevin writes in, is it okay to consume pea protein shakes while on AIP? Yes, pea protein is typically good for AIP. Andre writes in, Justin, is it safe long-term to stay on a carnivore diet given Amber O'Hearn, who's been on it for 10 years, positive without any side effects? I mean, the big thing is there's a lot of really good polyphenols and antioxidant compounds in vegetables. So people that typically do really well on the carnivore diets are one that have significant autoimmune stuff, significant carbohydrate sensitivity, even to the fiber in healthy cooked, sauteed vegetables. I have a handful of patients that have done it and done well on it, but those are the people that tend to do best. Like if you go look at like Jordan Peterson's daughter, just Google Jordan Peterson's daughter. She had like all of her joints literally removed, like ankle, knee, like by her early 20s, because she had a massive autoimmune condition that was destroying her joints, and a carnivore diet massively helped her. So typically the people that really benefit are ones where there's a lot of autoimmunity and they're just really sensitive to even the anti-nutrients in the plants. My big thing was make sure there's enough fat in there and make sure you're eating some organ meats if you are going to do it. Make sure that those animals are grass-fed, so you're at least getting some of potentially those plant byproducts through what the animal ate. But long-term, I would say if you fit that criteria, it may make sense for you to be long-term, but I would always try to come off it and see how we do, because you can still do kind of a paleo keto style template and be pretty close, right? Rashawn writes in, is it okay to add a little potassium chloride to food? Yes, new salt is a great healthy salt that you can do that has that in it. Is camel milk healthy for humans? From what I understand, it's a little bit more lower sensitivity, kind of in the same category as goat milk. So a little bit more anti-inflammatory. Roshan writes in, does iodine help with very high TSH and normal T3, T4? Potentially, definitely could. I mean, I'd work on the adrenal stuff. I'd work on some herbs to help calm down the HPA axis if T3 and T4 are middle of the reference range. Tobias writes in, you mentioned bentonite clay. How do you recommend supplementing with it? Typically 2 to 3 hours after a meal, 1 hour before. Definitely first thing in the morning is nice. And just make sure you're not taking it with like thyroid hormone or something like that. Take it away from food and subs. You're welcome, Kitty. Bridget writes in, any suggestions for H. pylori? My mom's taking DGL licorice. She felt better the first week after taking it, but not feeling well again. Well, I mean, in my line, we use GI Clear 2 for H. pylori. There's some mastic in there, some cloves, some wild indigo. We'll also combine in GI Clear 1. But you have to go through the 6R program, remove the bad foods, replace enzymes, acids, repair the gut lining, and support the hormones, remove the infections, make sure it's not just H. pylori, repopulate, retest, make sure the spouse is also treated. Tobias writes in, what could be the cause of fat and stool? Would it be best to avoid fats if this is the case? So typically low stomach acid is going to have a major effect because that triggers the gallbladder to release bile. Bile is what's needed to break down that fat. So having healthy gallbladder function, certain food allergens can do it. I've seen pork. I've seen, if you just Google Dr. Jonathan Wright article on gallbladder, he lists a whole bunch of food allergens. I actually have a video on that I did a while back. Just type in Dr. Justin gallbladder bile video and you should be able to find it. Okay. But HCl, bile salts, and yeah, I mean, if in the meantime you're really having a hard time or pain, I would recommend dropping the fats out, get the digestive support going, get the bile, and then taper up. But you really want to work with the good doctor because these situations don't just happen in isolation. There's a lot of other things that are happening for that to be a problem. Valden writes in, thyroid peroxidase antibodies on my thyroid are 33. What does that mean? What are things I can do? So if we rely on Quest Labs, typically it's like 34 or higher is positive on the TPO. So you're on the fence. You have all the autoimmune genes for Hashimoto. So you got to be really, really careful there. Okay. And you would really want to be on an autoimmune template for at least a month and then phase into a paleo. The question is, you haven't really given me any clinical picture of, what kind of symptoms, what kind of issues you have, but definitely a paleo / autoimmune paleo for at least a few weeks and then transition to a paleo after. Let's see here. Apologize everyone on Facebook. I just cannot, when I click see more on here, it just does not like it and does not want to show me your questions. Apologize for that, guys. All right, back to YouTube. Are bananas, so many questions coming in. Are bananas good for bulking up? Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's, it's definitely starchy. I have no problem with it. You can do plantains as well. Any of those things are really good. I have no problem. Tina Wynn writes in, should I stay away from garlic and onions while trying to get rid of parasites? I mean, as long as they aren't causing problems, I have no problem with it. If you have FODMAP issues and it causes a lot of bloating and gas, then stay away from it. But if it doesn't, then I would add it in. I have no problem with it. Well, I'm going to sneeze here, y'all. It's like on the fence. All right. Tobias, you are totally welcome. Baldwin writes in, A1C 5.4, TSH 1.4. What do you suggest? Looks good. Those look good. No problem. Augie writes in, have you ever heard of someone with vitamin B6 toxicity? Well, I mean, typically vitamin B6, it's water soluble, so it's gonna flush out over time. But I wouldn't be supplementing more than 100 to 300 milligrams of B6. B6 is really important. It's one of those vitamins that gets really easily, goes low, and it's really important for activating neurotransmitters. But yeah, just time. It's water soluble. It should lower over time. Coals of Fire writes in, can the thyroid go back to normal functioning after H. pylori? Yeah, just get rid of the infection and make sure you're doing good with your diet and all the nutrition that may have been malabsorbed from the H. pylori. I think you'll be good to go, and make sure good bacteria is back up. Anyone wants to dive in deeper and work with me, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Give me a share. We're upgrading the camera quality. Webcam's pretty good, but we're gonna get a new camera here, and I got my new office going downstairs here in this building, and I'm gonna be able to do more videos coming at you. I'm really excited for that. It's gonna have awesome information coming the new year. Let me hit up these last couple of questions. Justin, I saw that Evan and your great friend is dealing with black mold toxicity. I know, we talked all about it. I actually helped him negotiate his new home. He just bought a new home yesterday. I helped him negotiate, and it's a beautiful home. It's great. Perspective on mold being more dominant in chronic illness world after what he learns. It depends. My biggest issue, Evan followed my advice. What was my advice? Get out and see if you feel better. So we found there was one room in his house that had no mold in it. He stayed in that room for a couple of days. He felt good. I said, get out, go to a hotel for a week. And he felt much better getting out. So the first thing is just try to get to a place where you can be more confident there's no mold in it. Evan's builder screwed up the building when they put in the attic, like the ventilation part, they put plyboard over it. So there was no way the house could breathe. So there was no ventilation. So a lot of condensation occurred, and that condensation had nowhere to go, and it just like rotted out the wood. And that was the problem. So he's getting it remediated. But in general, he tested it with immunolytics, which came back really high. He texted me that a couple nights ago. And we're also going to have it tested with ERMI as well, just to see where it's at. But yeah, I mean, get out of your house for a couple of weeks. Make sure it's not just a vacation too, because sometimes the stress can make it feel better too, and see how you do. Hey, Carlos, how you doing? Great ways to raise glutathione. Amino acids. I mean, if you can deal with, if you can tolerate a little bit of whey protein is a great way to increase it. If not, we could just do NAC or just good, healthy amino acids. And like in my collagen, for instance, a lot of glycine, that will increase glutathione as well. And then NAC is also, N-acetylcysteine is a great way to increase glutathione too. Tobias writes, any suggestions on gaining weight with delayed gastric emptying and gastroparesis? If I eat, I get full and sick. Yeah, add in some ginger. Ginger's a really good natural prokinetic. I would make sure you cook your foods thoroughly in an Instapot or crock pot to break it down, up the HCl or enzymes. If the HCl is causing irritation because you're having delayed emptying, we can decrease the HCl. We can also add in some bitters or iberogast to help. Okay. Last thing, Vinod writes in, Dr. McDougall suggests eating starchy potatoes to get rid of diabetes. Problem is what happens to your sugar level whilst trying to eat yourself. Yeah, I think McDougall stuff on that's absolute BS. Diabetes is high blood sugar. Most people, when they eat starch, they have insulin resistance already. So eating more carbs, yeah, they're typically higher blood sugar. People that McDougall helps are ones that are eating a whole bunch of crappy refined sugar, and then they go to eating more whole food-based starches. So there's like lots of refined sugar, lots of crappy carbs. Then they're eating healthier, more whole food carbs, so they can, the insulin resistance isn't that bad, and the carbohydrate drop is still significant enough to bring down the blood sugar. Again, there are people, though, who I have as patients where if they even eat anything above fruit or one serving of starch, their blood sugar is too high. So he's going to selectively get results for people that are on the higher junk food, lots of refined sugar, and then they bring it to more carby, but at least it's whole food based as well. Okay, so hope that helps there, guys. All right, coffee enemas daily. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your butt. Sleep on that one. I'm not a big fan of them for just everyday use, but I think if you're chronically sick or chronically ill or have cancer, they're an essential part of all my protocols for patients that have cancer. If you're relatively healthy, there are things like sauna therapy, infrared sauna that may be more helpful, just drinking more good, clean mineral water, using herbs and amino acids. But yeah, if you want to accelerate that, I think it's good. Pain in the butt, pun intended, but it is still good. And if you were sicker or needed more detoxification, that would be super helpful. Okay. All right, y'all. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. If you want to dive in deeper, click below. Happy to help you all one-on-one. You guys have a happy new year. I'll be back on Friday. Take care, y'all. Bye.